There we go. Okay. There's so many different buttons to click to get started. Okay, here we go. So I want to thank my brother Nick for being here. As you know, we are a heavily female-dominated clinic, but he's done remarkably well, and he and I have both taken separate paths, and I thought it would be interesting to hear from both of us. Also, I want to welcome our entire team is here, so they will be monitoring the chat and answering questions too, especially my nursing staff and my leadership team. Heather and Megan. Heather Wall is our Director of Patient Relations, and Megan is our Clinical Director. So we appreciate you being here tonight. We want to make it very much worth your time. So thank you. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
Cool. Very good. So have you ever told yourself, if you're struggling with weight loss or you know somebody who is, have you ever said, like, it just never works for me? Like, no matter what I do, it just never seems to work. Megan, how do they answer that?
It's not letting me answer.
Megan,
Host and task.
Oh, yes. So
how can they answer?
the responses are coming through, and there should be options for either yes or no, and they're populating on the screen.
Okay,
So I
perfect.
know that you and Molly and Nick will not be able to answer that, but they're coming through and a lot of responses.
Yeah, you can see them on live time. So it just never works for me no matter what I do. I may get to a good start, but I fizzle out after just a few days or a couple of weeks. I've tried absolutely everything. And then I did well for a while, but it came back and even more so. So with a vengeance. So I just want to stop the yo-yo. I want to stop. So these are kind of common things that I've said to myself, that I've heard other people say, and kind of lose hope on that. Has your doctor ever told you need to lose weight? Just said you need to lose weight. This isn't healthy. Eat less and exercise more. Has any doctor ever told you that? Or said your labs are normal? Or maybe not even told you this, but sent you a little message in your chart. Labs are good. Go on. They don't even tell you what they check. They don't tell you, what does it mean that it's normal? What did you check? What didn't you check? Did they ever go through it with you? So these are common things we hear from patients all the time. So we wanted to talk, Nick and I, as you know and saw, that's why you're here. We have collectively lost over 100 pounds in the last 4 months. He's done the lion's share of that. I will give him the credit. He gets that number up there. We also have other family members who are down 25, 60 pounds. I have good friends who are down 80 plus pounds. So this is something that we're seeing over and over in our clinic. I tried to start adding it up, and it's thousands of pounds that our patients have lost by following this. So we wanted to share this with you because this is really, I don't know how to get rid of that. This is really my passion project, is dispelling the myths of modern medicine and getting to the heart of the matter and getting people results, whether it's weight loss, whether it's reversing diabetes, whether it's cancer, no matter what it is, breaking all of that down. So Megan, can you get rid of that?
We're good to go.
Okay. It's still showing up on mine, but that's okay.
Let me-
So why is it that weight loss is so difficult? First of all, most programs are designed to fail. How many of you guys have ever tried, you can do show of hands, how many of you ever tried a low-fat diet? This was kind of the trend. Oh yeah, a bunch of people. Yep, hands up. I got, yep, 10 of you. A lot of you actually. So low fat was kind of the rage in the 90s and the 2000s, snack wells and the little cookies with no fat in them, no fat anywhere. That is destined to fail, because what that does is it takes the fat out, and what do they have to do to replace the flavor? They have to add carbs and sugar. So that disproportionately imbalances your diet, and it it basically makes you hungry all the time because you never get that fat that satiates you. Calorie restriction. So this is weight loss, Jenny Craig, things like that. They're literally designed to fail because one thing that's been proven over and over and over in the medical literature is that calorie restriction slows your metabolism. So if you cut your calories, including carbs, fat, and protein, it slows your body down. So when you stop calorie restricting, you're going to plump on and add weight back up. That is not what we want. Diet pills can temporarily buzz you up and hop you up. We know it caused some heart problems in patients back in the fen craze of everything. And sometimes people want a quick fix. This isn't going to work. So, and the reason that they don't work long-term is because it doesn't address the underlying cause. This is really nicely outlined. If you'd like to read The Obesity Code by Jason Fung, is a great book that goes over and does, I don't know why they have to knock on my door at 7 o'clock at night. But it doesn't address the underlying cause, which is the problem. So once we address that, things get a lot better. So when you're looking at how is the James Clinic approach different, first of all, we're going to address metabolism and insulin. This is the most important thing, and this is something people don't talk about at all. Excuse me 1 second. Sully. Is metabolism and insulin. So we look at blood sugars and A1C and things like that, but really the silent problem is insulin levels. How many of you have ever had a fasting insulin level checked? By a show of hands. A few of you have. If you're our patients, you definitely have, because we check this when we have a new patient. We always monitor what the fasting insulin level is. So what happens if your body is not using insulin well, which is basically what type 2 diabetes is, or weight gain, your body is not using it, so it's cranking out insulin when you're not eating, and that's a hormonal signal to tell your body to store. And so whenever you eat anything that has carbs in it, it's increasing your insulin. Insulin levels go up 5 to 10 years before blood sugar does. This is why our clinic is catching metabolic issues 5 to 10 years earlier, where it's much easier to reverse before you're in full-blown diabetes and you have the damage to your blood vessels and things. The other thing is, and there's a book called Glucose Revolution that we'll talk about, lots of things throw off your insulin resistance. So when patients were coming into the ICU with me, they were all looked diabetic because their insulin wasn't working because they had an inflammatory process going on. If you don't sleep well, it changes the way your body handles insulin. So by the time, again, insulin is going to go up to control those blood sugars and keep those blood sugars in check. By the time you're seeing your blood sugars pop, you know that you're way out of range and your body is not functioning properly. We're going to look at hormones as well. We're going to look at thyroid and stress. We all know that stress is the silent killer. It is the silent saboteur when it comes to weight loss, because when you are under stress, whether it's physiologic, emotional stress, whatever the stress is, if it's too much, it can sabotage what you're doing. It can cause insulin resistance. It causes cortisol disproportionately. No bueno. Inflammation is something that I don't often see addressed. This can come from a number of different sources. We're looking at gut health. So we do stool testing for most of our patients as they're coming in to see what is going on in the gut. Are you breaking down your fat? Are you able to digest your food? I have patients who have high A1C that have a decent diet, high blood sugars, and when we dig into this, we find out they're not digesting and breaking down their fat, and so they're disproportionately absorbing their carbs. And as you notice, we haven't even gotten to diet and exercise. So that is an important part of what we do, but it's 2 of the 5 pillars. It's not all of it. So we will address nutrition and what you should be eating, as well as activity. Here's our website. If you want to go to the link, it kind of outlines the program that I'm talking about, but obviously we're going to be in much more detail tonight. So again, how many of you have been told that your labs are completely normal? But have any of you had the right labs checked? And that's really where we get to the heart of this. A hemoglobin A1C, basically, I don't even know if most doctors know what that means. So that's looking at your red blood cells. And if your blood sugar is too high, it hijacks your red blood cells and attaches to those like a trailer on a car. And so this is checking how many of those hemoglobins have a blood sugar attached to it. So there's a couple of things that can raise your A1C. Number one, if you have more sugar in your bloodstream, you have more glucose to hook on like a trailer. Number two, if your hemoglobin lasts longer, so if you have really healthy red blood cells, it's going to hang out, they're going to hang out longer and more of a chance for something to attach to it. So it can be a sign of a big problem. It can also be a sign that somebody is really healthy. Again, that fasting insulin level, this should be between 5 and 10. I have some patients who are doing keto and low carb that are under 5. That is positive. Anything above 10, fasting is getting into problem zone. Have any of you ever used a continuous glucose monitor? A few people have. I know there's some people out there that are our patients already. So there's 2 commercially available here in the United States. One is a Dexcom, which I don't use. The other is a Freestyle Libre. The Libre tends to be a little less expensive. They last 14 days instead of only 10. So that's kind of our preferred monitor. Basically, it's an inch dial. You put it on your arm, and we use just a cell phone, a smartphone. You can put an app on your phone and you scan it, and it tells you what your blood sugars are doing. So you can tell exactly how your body is responding to the food that you're eating. If your blood sugar is spiking way up after you're eating, you know you've got to make some changes, because again, if your blood sugar is spiking, we know your insulin is spiking with it. Even though we aren't monitoring insulin levels, it's kind of a surrogate for that. So I have patients who can maybe eat a Hershey bar and not spike their blood sugar, but if they eat a chocolate chip cookie, they do. So it really helps you personalize what you're eating. And also it can help you with pitfalls. So I remember last summer, I think I was at the lake and my blood sugar spiked up, and I didn't realize it was the dressing in the salad that I'd been eating. So it can help you pick up things that you might not be thinking are sabotaging you. Fatty liver is something that, have any of you ever been told that you have a fatty liver? This is an abomination of modern medicine right now. And the reason that it is because there's no big pharma patent drug that can treat fatty liver. This is why none of you are getting emails to get your liver checked and get your ultrasounds, because you're getting your hepatitis C reminders to get your levels checked, because there's a drug for that, but there isn't a drug for this. So when we're addressing this high insulin, what happens is insulin is taking all that blood sugar and sending it to the liver and saying, here, you store all this sugar. And the liver fights back and says, we're a full house, we don't have room. And insulin increases and says, you have to take it because you're the storage. And the two fight back and forth. So as part of treating that high insulin, we have to address fatty liver. So in all of our protocols, you're going to find we have HepatoGuard and we have N-acetylcysteine. We have things that are really going to support the liver and break down that insulin level, so we're not fighting with the two. The other thing is, as you're dropping fat and losing fat, fat is where our body stores toxins and chemicals to protect us. It hides it away in fat. So as you're melting fat, you're going to dump all those toxins into your liver, which is going to raise your liver enzymes. So we want to make sure that we're being proactive to give your liver what it needs to keep things moving through as you're dropping weight. This is something that's not addressed in the majority of weight loss plans that I've seen. And we have seen patients have their fatty liver reversed over a period of 3 to 6 months. So what should you eat? One of my favorite references and resources is Glucose Revolution. If you're my patient, you've heard me talk about this a lot, or if you follow us on social media. So she takes these continuous glucose monitors and she compares eating one way versus eating the next. So you can see here, they're looking at a raisin pastry and basically going from a baseline blood sugar and spiking way up. That is a very different signal, a genetic signal activated in your body than the bottom, which is toast and half an avocado. So by putting that fat on top of the toast, it changes the way our body absorbs the carbohydrates. And it's an entirely different hormonal signal that we're generating in the bottom versus the top. So if you're doing what I call the double drive-through, where you're going to McDonald's and Burger King and doing that, and you're just in an uncontrolled, there's no plan of what I eat, it's whatever I want to, reading the book Glucose Revolution is a really good first step to look at the order of food that you're eating. So it doesn't tell you can't eat carbs. It's not something aggressive like a ketogenic diet, but it says, hey, if you want to eat bread, why don't you eat your salad first and put the bread toward the end of the meal, where it's going to have a different hormonal signal that's not going to hurt you as much. And it's going to keep that blood sugar. We don't want it to rise more than 40 points in a day. So, and everything that we eat activates certain genes in our body. So everything you eat is either contributing to health or contributing to illness. Again, we have multiple ways that we can eat. And I do not tell people you have to eat this way or that way. And that's really why I wanted Nick here, because he's taken a very different course than I have. Nick, do you want to share a little bit about how what you're doing just as far as it pertains to what you're eating in a day?
So right now, um, I'm fat. I do my 18-hour fasts. So that's one thing that I've incorporated in. So I'm 18 hours. So usually I don't eat breakfast. I'll get up and take my supplements in the morning. And maybe in the afternoon for lunch, I'll eat something, but for sure at dinner, I usually have a steak or some type of meat. I'll have avocado or fresh fruit. I've been buying just organic fruit lately for the diet that I'm on, because mine's basically like I'm doing an animal-based diet where I want raw honey. I've actually started purchasing raw milk and raw yogurt and mixing that with raw honey. So basically just steak, hamburger, fresh fruit, avocado. That's basically what I'm eating.
Yeah, and people can do anything on the spectrum of low carb. Again, glucose revolution is great because the whole point of the diet is that you don't spike your blood sugars. What people don't realize is every time your blood sugar spikes more than 40 points, it's a stress to your body. Your body thinks you just ran away from a lion, and that's exhausting. And that causes adrenal fatigue, that causes that chronic stress over time. So the problem itself is kind of snowballs as you go. So we leave it to individual patients. Some people want to do carnivore or the lion's diet, more like Nick's do. You know, some people are strict where they don't even add the honey and the raw milk and things like that. It's just steak and bacon. Um, I don't think that's a good long-term solution. I think you need the phytonutrients from vegetables at least. Always incorporating good fats. You need a disproportionately a diet high in fat because you need to feel satiated. You need to feel full at the end of the day, unless you have a specific ApoE4 gene mutation, which about 20% of the population does. Eating more of a keto carnivore. This is what our ancestors ate. Our body is only able to handle about 4 teaspoons of sugar a day. That's 16 grams. That's not a lot of sugar. So if you look at the low carb strict diets and the keto diets, is usually less than 20 to 50 grams of carbs a day. Not very much at all. So even if you look at a healthy yogurt, at the hospital, I did this. They had a high protein Greek yogurt. It was 12 grams of carbs just in that. So it was several teaspoons of, 3 teaspoons of sugar just in that one little serving of yogurt. So that's something that sabotages people pretty regularly. This is a picture of Nick's fasting that he sends me. So he has incorporated the intermittent fasting. There's two patient populations I really encourage to avoid this. One is if they're super high insulin or fragile diabetic where you're on medication, you can't just not eat. You've got to have a little more gradual prep time to get you ready. A low carb diet, getting off of insulin, things like that. You can do it, but you have to get ready and get there first. Otherwise, that constant insulin is gonna bottom you out and cause problems. Also, if you are a person who has adrenal fatigue where you can't get off the couch and you can't do some of these things, this is a bad idea because it's too stressful to the body. So you can do a smaller window. There's a spectrum of intermittent fasting. You can do 12 on and 12 off, or you can do something aggressive. Nick, talk about the prolonged fasting that you've done.
So the longest fast that I've done, I think, was about 5 days, 5 or 6 days. And and that was one of the first ones I think I did. And when I did it, I was kind of like, "There's no way I'm going to make it this long." But let's just get into it and see how we do. I felt like the very beginning was the hardest, if anything, like the first day. But after the first day goes by, you start getting more energy, and you're less like thinking about food. The day goes by, so I kind of added in a little bit of Gary Brecka, how he says to do the fasting. So I it's a water fast where I put a little bit of salt and trying to remember what else in my water, and then I'm taking the protein supplement as I'm doing it. But yeah, the longest has been about 5 days, and then since then I've seen that research shows that you really don't gain a lot after 3 days. So the benefits aren't that great to go over three. So I haven't done anything that long since. my longest fast here recently are the 3 days. But then I started a 90-day challenge through the Zero app, like on the screen, and it is to do 18-hour fast, like 70 or 72 days out of the 90 days. So I'm just doing 18 hours. So I'll when my 18 hours is up, I'll have my meat, my avocado, fresh fruit, and then I feel full, kind of like what you were saying. They, just eat quality food, and you'll feel full. And I'm full enough that I'm ready to start my 18-hour fast, and I let that go by. And when the next 18 hours is up, I have another nice meal. I'm definitely don't feel like I'm starving myself. I'm not trying to not eat. So when I do eat, I eat plenty. I'm full, and I don't feel like eating after that. So I also log a lot of my food in on the MyFitnessPal, just so I can see where I'm at for uh, my protein, my fat, and everything, because I have those goals that I want to hit in my meals.
Yeah, thank you. So fasting is something we definitely incorporate, but it's super individualized. And, I'm not as much on fasting. I might do like a 12 to 16 hour fairly regularly. But to me, this is less important on my radar. So there's kind of all these options you have, and there's more or less depending, Nick's obviously on the high end on this. I'm on the low end. So there's a lot of individualization you can do, which just getting started and then exploring what works really well for you. How many of you have been told your thyroid labs are normal? This is one of my favorite things that I do every single day. It's also one of the most frustrating for me because it's so easy and doctors miss the mark on this so badly. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of thyroid physiology. If you don't know this, it's not super deep. So you have a pituitary gland in your brain that secretes TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, that stimulates your thyroid gland in your neck to make T4. T4 is that's what's in the drugs. The synthetic version, Synthroid, is synthetic T4. Levothyroxine is another name for it. There's a bunch of other names as well. This is inactive in the body. You can see it doesn't hit a receptor. It doesn't do anything. T4 gets converted to T3, which is your gas pedal for your metabolism, or reverse T3, which is the brakes of your metabolism. So if you think about driving a car, the ratio of your gas pedal to brakes, which is pushed, is how fast your car is going, how fast your own internal metabolism is going. Now, if your car's not going fast enough based on I have people that their brakes are slammed on and they've got no gas pedal, they're not going anywhere. But guess what? You don't get to sit all day, right? So somebody's got to push the car from the outside. That's adrenaline. That's anxiety. That's that revved up feeling. So if you look here, factors that contribute to proper production of thyroid hormones, and we're going to talk about nutrient deficiencies. Think about making cookies at Christmas time. These are the ingredients for the recipe. If you are missing one of these ingredients, your cookies ain't going to turn out right. So same thing, if you are missing one of these ingredients, you are not going to make thyroid as efficiently as if you had a full bucket of everything. Same thing, converting to T3, which is the active form of that, selenium and zinc. You've got to have both of these minerals in your body. Now, a lot of people have zinc a little disproportionately high, but selenium can be lacking. And if you look down here, for T3 to actually work on the cell, you actually have to move. You have to do something. You have to get going. I haven't talked a lot about exercise, but movement and getting active is going to be a really important part of this as well. So here are the mistakes that most doctors make. Number one, they don't even check a reverse T3 and a T3. Most of the time, it's either a TSH, which isn't even on here, or a free T4, or some combination of those two. And they say, hey, you're totally fine. Neither one of those reflects physiologically what is going on. Number two, they don't treat. They don't look at symptoms. So with every patient, I do a checklist for hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. That's coming up next. I don't care what your labs look like, other than initially, if it looks like you're low and you have symptoms, I'm going to treat you. And it's just how bad do the labs look as we get started. Now, most doctors are going to treat to make your labs look normal. Your numbers look good on paper. Who cares what you feel like? That is a huge mistake. And even the endocrine societies say that that's a huge mistake. So we screen with labs. We go based on symptoms. And when I start somebody on thyroid medication, I start them at a low dose and we stair step it up until we get them dialed in. I don't want them to have hyperthyroid symptoms, but I don't want them to have hypothyroid symptoms either. So number one, we check a full panel of labs. We're going to check the whole shebang. We're going to make sure we check your antibodies as well, and make sure you don't have an autoimmune thyroid issue. We're going to go by your symptoms and stepwise increase. And I have some people, again, this is individualized. So I have some people I start on thyroid or equivocal, and they're like, yeah, I got too jittery with that. I didn't feel right. So then we individualize that as well. So here's symptoms of hypothyroidism: hair shedding, fatigue, brain fog, low body temperature, feeling cold all the time when other people don't feel cold, constipation, skin, dry skin, the nails not being good for women, heavy periods can be part of it. I have people who check the box on every one of these and have had abnormal labs for 10 years and nobody's done anything about it. So it's important to know what these are. Oh, and the last one, high cholesterol. You'd be shocked how many people have every symptom of hypothyroidism and high cholesterol, and guess what they get treated with? Certainly not thyroid meds, it's a statin. So when I treat, I'm going to go back here for just 1 second. So when I treat, I use a medicine called NP thyroid, and it has a combination T3 and T4 in it. T3 gives you that direct gas pedal bump. And the reason that you don't just take T3 is it only lasts in the body for 3 to 4 hours. So you'd have to take it 8 times a day to keep it going. But it has a little bit of T3, and then you get that higher T4 throughout the day. So we just manage it totally different in our office, and we're trying to optimize your thyroid. So when you look at thyroid labs, what they do is they take 10,000 people or 100,000 people and they check their labs and they put it on a bell curve and say, well, here's where everybody falls. Well, guess what? Half those people have heart disease. A third of those people, and now probably half those people are going to get cancer. You don't want to be in the middle of that population. You want to be on the high end. So that's why we use this as one piece of information, but it certainly is just a guide. So here's hyper. So we don't want people to be hyperthyroid with our medications. So this is basically you'd feel like you drink a pot of coffee. So jittery, anxious, nervous, irritable, heart rate going up, heart palpitations. We don't want that either. So this is kind of the point we titrate the meds to, and then we back down. Inflammation actually causes insulin resistance, and it can be from a number of things. Just having your blood sugar go up and down all day long, that itself can cause inflammation. So again, it's that snowball effect, right? You have a problem and it's creating its own problem that cycles on itself. So you've got to reverse the cause of this. Again, our gut testing is a key way to do that. We look for chronic infections from tick-borne illnesses and things like that, Epstein-Barr. We're looking for all of those when indicated. So an important thing to keep in mind. Nutrition, again, this is a key part of what we do. We don't tell you what to eat, but we tell you, hey, you need full buckets on your nutrients. 80% of people in the United States with our abundant lifestyle are nutrient deficient in one area or more. Homocysteine is an amino acid that rarely gets checked. We do this in our office. It's an amino acid that requires B vitamins to get recycled. A number of people have elevated homocysteine level, especially in my cancer population that I'm seeing, because they're folate and B12, B6, and riboflavin deficient. You need all of that to recycle this. So we're checking all of those things. I have my favorite B vitamin that I take that I like to use. Vitamin D levels. Vitamin D is an insulin sensitizer. You need your levels to be 60 to 90. So that's important to note as well. Magnesium, we check something called an RBC magnesium. That is checking 80% of your magnesium is stored in the cells. So we cut the red blood cells open and check the level on the inside. It reflects your magnesium stores. You do have to be active. So if you are, riding the couch all the time, you've got to get up, you've got to start moving. Exercise, if they could put it in a bottle and patent it, would be the most successful drug in history. You've got to find a way to get moving. And we're not going to tell you what you have to do. I would find something that you love doing. For me, this is more the route I've taken probably than Nick. I've been walking the dogs, and that can be anywhere from 1.5 miles to 3 miles, 4 miles a day. We found trails and things that we like. You've got to track it. So most of our watches now have rings, or we have steps. We can monitor exactly what we're doing. Hitting that 10,000 steps a day and making sure you stand 12 hours a day is actually critically important. And then as you get into body recomposition, adding that resistance training and those weights in is going to be important, but you want to phase that in properly. So what I tell people on this, and I've gone through ruts myself, so I know how it is. It can actually be really intimidating to start going to like a new class. You just have to do it. And you have to realize that nobody who's really good at what they're doing is going to criticize you. You're only going to be criticized by people doing less. So if you show up to a yoga class and you're the worst one there, because I've been the worst one there, nobody's going to ridicule you. They're going to teach you, they're going to be glad you showed up and want you to do better. So you just kind of have to pick and make a bucket list of what do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And how can I do those things? I have one of my patients loves to dance and he goes dancing with his friends all the time. So maybe you like to play sports, maybe you're out of something. I went golfing this weekend with my dad. It gets, you get 10,000 steps just chasing your ball out of the fairway all the time. So that can go a lot of different directions. The reason this is so important is not only is it your skeletal muscle is going to use and flush through the glucose faster, it also increases BDNF, brain-derived, I always get this wrong. I call it natriuretic factor. It's basically what repairs your brain. You need to exercise and move for that. So it's going to like long-term reduce your dementia risk and neurologic issues. So pitfalls. When we start on a weight loss program, one of the things that we have to monitor is skeletal muscle mass. So we have something called the InBody that's a body impedance analysis machine. You stand on it. It sends an impulse you can't feel through your body, and it gives you your lean body mass, your BMI, your body fat mass. So here's a couple of excerpts from our report. So you can see skeletal muscle mass. We want to make sure that it's normal or above. And as somebody's dropping weight, we want to make sure that it's not dropping below normal or we're not losing a lot of skeletal muscle mass. Longevity is tied to your skeletal muscle mass and specifically your lower extremity strength. So I don't want anybody losing lower extremity strength and giving up years on the end of their life just to be thin. That's really, really critically important. And our nurses monitor for this. We encourage everybody to come in once a month and get an InBody scan. So number one, we can track progress. But number two, this is a huge criticism when we get into the GLP-1s, is that people lose skeletal muscle mass. BMI is important, but it doesn't take this into account. So here in the Midwest, we're built pretty stocky and hardy. And so if your skeletal muscle mass is high, your BMI is always going to be in the high end of normal. So you really want to look at your body fat mass and your body fat percentage proportionally over your BMI. Our machine gives you your goal for either putting on lean body mass or losing body fat or both. And it gives you your basal metabolic rate. So I'm not a big believer in calories, but this is how many calories this person burned a day if they sat on a couch and did nothing. So anything activity was above that. So obviously hitting pitfalls is huge. Stress can wipe you out. Lack of sleep. So this is probably how those two are probably how I got in trouble in the first place during residency, working 100 hours a week and never sleeping, is how I ended up where I did. Hyperinsulinism, if you're trying to lose weight and you don't know your fasting insulin level, you are going to give effort for months just to reverse the insulin before you start seeing the weight loss drop. So I always tell people to keep them motivated. The hardest thing is to turn the cruise ship around. That's your hardest change. Once you change direction, now you just get to sail easy. So you've got to do that. I probably did 2 months before I saw a single result because I was dropping that fasting insulin level. Failure to increase thyroid. So again, we tell all of our patients every couple of weeks, you're going to go up on your thyroid dose. Some of them, it's a lot when they come into the office. We have a lot of different things we go over. Some of them don't quite get that and they don't get it increased fast enough. You've got to have your thyroid dialed in with your blood sugar being dialed in and everything else. Getting impatient with the process is really easy to do, especially if you failed multiple times in the past and you're not seeing it out of the gate. My goal for every single person is to try to get you results within 2 weeks of something so that you know it's working and you have objective data to inspire you and motivate you to go further. So if you see results, then it's easy to add things and keep going and stay on the eating plan that you've chosen because you know it's working. Not moving enough. Again, if you're sitting and not doing anything, this is going to slow things down quite a bit. And then plateaus. So our body wants to stay normal. We want to stay where we are. We don't want big shifts. So as you start losing weight, about every 30 pounds, you actually can hit a plateau where your body says, hold on, something's wrong. We need to stop. And so you've got to work through those plateaus. And there's different strategies to do that, but that's a normal part of the process. And when you hit those, you just have to keep going, right? You can't expect to see every single day the scale is going to drop, 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 drop. You're going to hit flat parts. You're going to go up a pound or two. You're going to see a little bit of flux along the way. What we want is an overall trend in the right direction. For ladies, when you're on your period, you're probably not going to lose weight. Everybody puts on a few pounds, you swell up, you're less active. You just keep on the plan and you work through that and don't worry about it. Also, hydration. If you go pick up a gallon of water, does anybody know what that weighs? 8 pounds. So think about it. You could have 2 pounds of flux just in a quart of water that you're drinking. If I want to lose a couple of pounds and I'm getting discouraged, I go to hot yoga because I know I'm going to be 2 to 3 pounds less tomorrow than I was today, just based on hydration status. Also, if you're constipated, having a good BM, you can drop a pound or two depending on how aggressive you are. So again, if you're getting dehydrated, you're getting constipated, those are going to slow down the process. We've got to literally keep things moving through the system. So what is our plan? I'm going to go through this. Any questions? I can't see the chat up to here. So Megan, I'll pause for just a minute. Are there any questions I need to answer so far?
Martha asked, how do you measure insulin blood work?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a fasting lab, fasting blood work. So whenever we do labs, we want our patients to fast after midnight until they get their labs drawn the next morning, hopefully early, and drink lots of water. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Thank you so much. Okay, so our plan, number one, baseline assessment. So an important part of what we do is not only helping people get better, but demonstrating to them that they're getting better. Supplements, injections, RX medications, tracking and support. And then again, fasting and activity are parts of that. So I'm going to go through here, and Nick's doing a couple of these, so I'll have him chime in when appropriate. So again, we're going to establish the baseline and some measurable outcomes. Number one is weight, the body impedance analysis, your in-body. You want to know what your calories are. So I would get an app like MyFitnessPal and start tracking what you're eating without a goal, and then set your goal and see how far off you are from where you need to be. Same with measuring your steps. Count your steps out first. If you're only hitting 3,000 a day, I'm not going to say do 10,000 a day. I'm going to say go to 5,000, like hit that goal and then set another goal. Set measurable, precise goals that are stepwise so you can always be ahead. And then getting that baseline lab assessment. So you would be surprised how many people bring labs into our office that are either, the same labs. They're really not that helpful. So we usually need to order a thorough baseline lab evaluation. Okay. So this is one of the supplements that I recommend, Metabolic Balance 1. This has berberine in it. Berberine, it's 1 cap twice a day or 3 times a day. It's good for blood sugars. It's good for cholesterol. It's anti-inflammatory and it's antibacterial. So this is kind of the wonder drug. We use this a ton, especially for patients who don't want to take metformin. This is a nice natural equivalent. Nick, you're taking it. I'm taking
Yep.
it. This is something we're both on. Any problems with berberine?
No, I had a problem with the metformin, so
Mhm.
that was not working for me. But nothing, no problems with this.
Yeah, some people have a little bit of heartburn or diarrhea with it at first. My guess is it's straightening out your gut flora. So you can expect some people can have that. Our weight loss stack includes the Metabolic Balance 1. Magnesium at bedtime, that is a cofactor for like 400 different chemical processes in the body. It's extremely important. A probiotic for good health. That HepatoGuard, we want to, again, support and protect the liver. It's one of the most important organs that we have in filtering and protein production and detoxifying the body. And then Complete Mito is our multivitamin. And Nick, you do that one too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't do the Complete Mito. I have a really sensitive stomach, so I cannot personally take 15 supplements. So I generally don't ask my patients to as well. Some of them want to, and that's fine. But I'm actually more of a minimalist when it comes to supplements and meds. High phenolic is something you can take. This is an herbal extract. It is an appetite suppressant. So, Brenda, I wish Brenda was on here. She says her recommendation is to take this at around 11 o'clock. It covers your lunch and dinner time to kind of suppress that appetite and knock it out a little bit. So I'm a big fan of Cardio B. That's the B vitamin that I take. It reduces homocysteine. You've got to have B vitamins. This is huge to support metabolism. It gives you energy. We want to take it generally in the morning. Good for all things metabolism. Fish oil. Fish oil incorporates into the cell wall that gives you healthier cells. It also reduces inflammation. Nick, are you doing fish oil? I don't remember.
Nope. Nope,
No,
I'm not
you're
doing
not. I'm doing fish oil. Our fish oil is not fishy. So a lot of people tell me they burp fish taste and don't like most products. Ours does not do that at all. It's pretty well tolerated. It's a little bit big. So if you have trouble swallowing capsules, you might not love that. Next are injections. And again, now we're kind of at the part of the plan where there's a bunch of these options and some more for some people, less for others. But we basically, the nurse practitioners, PAs, and I can look at your labs and tell you need more of this and less of this. You know, you need lots of thyroid, but you need a little bit of berberine, or you need more of the over here. And we can kind of dial that in, but then it's what you tolerate and what you prefer to do. So B12 shots can be weekly. You can give them to yourself. We ship them. Our concierge patients get one a month for free anyway. Nick, do you want to talk about the fat burner shots? You've been killing it with these.
I do fat burners about every other day, and I obviously do them myself at home. So they're not hard at all. Just put them in your cheek and go. So I do those about every other day, and I think they've helped me a bunch.
Yeah, the
So
cheek that's not on camera, right?
that's right.
So these are injections. These are all the things your liver needs to process fats. So it's really good for fatty liver. It's really good for cholesterol. Carnitine is great for energy production. So if you're just kind of dragging through this or you're just not getting a boost, this can be something that we can add to the protocol. It can be anywhere from once a week to 3 times a week. As Nick says, he's on the higher end of that. Most people once a week to twice a week, whatever fits into their budget is where they go with that. Now the controversial stuff, and I'm going to try to wrap it because it looks like we're kind of hitting almost 45 minutes in. I do use the GLP-1s, so semaglutide, tirzepatide. Brenda has been a champion, does a lot of research. We're bringing in risuteride, I think is how you say it, which is a third in the class. So this is a class of medications that definitely knocks out your appetite. It delays gastric emptying. It helps your insulin work better. This is extremely controversial. If you're on social media, there is the camp that says it's the Holy Grail, and there's the camp that says it's the devil's spawn. And I'm somewhere in the middle. Nick, are you?
I, for me, when I got started on this whole thing, I had terrible cravings. I was always, man, I get to work and I was thinking where I'd wake up and I think, what am I going to have for breakfast? I'd be at work and I'd be like, okay, hey, it's 10:30, 11. Well, I wonder where we're going to go for lunch. I was thinking about what I was going to have. And then in the afternoon, it's like when we get off, I wonder what I'm going to have for dinner. I'm telling you what, when I took the tirzepatide, all the cravings went away. I could focus on stuff. The food was not on my mind all the time. And I think it allowed me to do as well as I did just by not having the cravings.
Yeah. So the reason this is controversial, and I'm extremely opposed to how it's used in other places. First of all, there's scammy weight loss clinics that will sell you these shots for several $100s a month, and all they do is ship you shots, and they do one virtual visit, and they don't monitor anything. They don't track all these other things. So you take it, it suppresses your appetite, but it doesn't change your blood sugars. It doesn't change your thyroid. It doesn't make sure you have skeletal muscle mass. And patients go off of it and they go right back up because nothing else has changed. So that is a true thing that happens. The couple other things, number two, that skeletal muscle mass dropping. That is a huge criticism of this class of drugs because it knocks out your appetite so much it's hard to get adequate protein in. That's why you have to be monitored with a body impedance analysis. You have to track your protein in something like MyFitnessPal to make sure you're getting what you need so that your body doesn't fall apart while we're doing this. Third is, again, these scammy weight loss clinics. I have a patient that, wanted to lose weight, was prescribed these in a different state, started vomiting the minute she started these meds, and she went back and said, hey, I think they're making me sick. And the doctor said, no, it isn't. Yes, it is. The side effect of this is severe reflux and nausea. If you have those, you cannot take these medications. These are the people who get in trouble with the gastric paresis. So if they're monitored appropriately, we don't see any of those problems in our office at all. The other thing is we do the very lowest dose to get results. So I'm at I haven't even gone to the second dose. I'm at a very, very low dose on this. I am probably the most sensitive patient of anybody we've had with a nausea. So I'm super, I watch patients like a hawk to make sure they don't have this problem. Nick, have you ever had nausea, reflux,
No,
anything like
I'm
that?
on the other end of the scale from you. I can pretty much take anything,
Yeah.
and I don't have any effects from it, or it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. So again, this is something people walk into my office and they're dead set they're not going to take it, and I'm not here to convince you to do it. The other nice thing I will tell you is if you go to a pharmacy or you go to a system hospital and they prescribe these medicines, it's over $1,000 a month at standard clinics or standard pharmacies. It is not covered by your insurance unless you have a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes that is lab confirmed. If they kick it back for a prior authorization, they ask us, what's your A1C? And if your A1C is not above 6.2, there's no way they're going to pay for it. And sometimes if you have a 6.2, they're still not going to pay for it. We do compounding pharmacies, so we can get this. The semaglutide is extremely cost effective, starting at $100 a month and peaks out at the highest dose at $225. The tirzepatide is more expensive. It starts at $200 a month and it goes up to around $800 a month. But I don't think we have anybody on the $800 a month dose. Usually it's the 200 or 400, and we're getting good results with that. So,
And the shots are super easy to take. They're little teeny tiny little diabetic needles. You can't even feel them go in. It's
mhm.
super simple.
Yeah, super simple. And again, when you're monitored appropriately, I believe they're extremely safe. And, to me, everything is risk benefit. And the risk of being 100 pounds overweight outweighs the risk of being on these meds for 3, 6, 12 months, getting that weight down and getting that risk factor taken care of. I do use metformin. This is almost as controversial as the GLP ones. Metformin is an incredible drug. It has data in longevity. It reduces glucose output from the liver. It helps you use your insulin better. It's a great medication. If you are one of the 5 to 10% of people who has massive diarrhea from it, it's a no-go. We don't continue to say, well, keep trying it, keep trying it, keep trying it. We don't do it for them. One of the side effects of metformin is B12 deficiency, but obviously we've already talked that we are on top of that. Fenofibrate is a cholesterol drug I use for severe metabolic issues. I generally try to avoid statins in most of our patients. So what do you get with us? You get monthly check-ins with one of the nurses. Brenda has been carrying the weight of this, but we also have Sherry Archer, who's joined our team. We have Sherilyn up in Michigan. We're doing monthly in-bodies. You can do those as often as you want to under our plan. And then we recheck labs every 3 to 6 months. You do need time for things to change and evolve. I use a lot of continuous glucose monitors. Again, not generally covered by insurance, but with a GoToRx card, we're getting 2 of them or a month's supply for 60 or 70 to $80. And you just use the app on your phone and you don't have to buy a reader. It saves you $100. So it's actually much more accessible than most people think it is up front. How long will it take? So on average, and I think if you look at Nick and I's track record, this is about right. Women are 2 to 3 pounds a week. Men are 5 to 6 pounds a week. On average, it can be plus or minus that. So you just calculate how many pounds do you have to lose, divide it by whichever category you fall into. That's how many weeks it's going to take you likely to hit your goal, and maybe add a month or 2 onto that just for getting started and everything. Sounds about right, doesn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
Where you
And
are?
if it sounds like a lot, like listening to this, it might sound like a lot, but when you're actually doing it, it's really simple. There's not much to it. I mean, there's a lot of information, maybe taking a drink out of a fire hose, but when you're actually doing it, it's extremely simple. It's a shot a week if you do the tirzepatide that I do, and then if you choose to do fat burners, and then your food that you're eating healthy. It's not really that complicated.
I'm going
And
to go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
can the fat burner shots be shipped?
Yes. They do need to be shipped on ice, so we ship them with overnight shipping, but they can be shipped. Good question. I'm going to go ahead and get to our offer, and then I'll go back and answer the questions, okay? Because we do have a special offer. We appreciate your time and thank you so much for being here tonight. If you are not currently our patient, we're basically offering you $200 for your hour of being here with us. If you'd like to get started tonight, we actually changed this. She's going to put the link up here in the chat. If you want to join with our nurse practitioner, Michelle, or our physician assistant, Sarah, who are phenomenal, we're going to take $200 off of our normal consult. It's $790, and that's 4 visits. So that's an intake nurse, a nurse intake with you to build out your chart. That is your initial consult. That is your first follow-up to go over your blood work. And that is your next follow-up to either check in, or if you do a stool test, to go over that. That usually takes about 8 weeks for that. I think that's an incredible value based on the fact that we're an integrative medicine clinic that has basically figured all of this out for you. You know what you're going to get. After that, it's going to take most people more than 2 months. You drop into our concierge for $199 a month. That gets you access to that discounted GLP-1 medication, well below market value. So with that, I'll go back and answer questions. But if you want to take advantage of this special, the offer is in the chat. You can just click on that. You process through Shopify and make your payment tonight. And we'll get in touch with you. We'll get you started right away. If you're not quite ready to commit to all of that, which again is our best value, you can go back and get our weight loss stack. That is the list of supplements that we had. Most of the time, I found that if you could do it yourself, you would have. I talk about a lot of this stuff on social media, but most people need that support. That you need to have a concentrated effort. You need to have that accountability. I see lots of really good questions, so I'm going to start working through here. You're in Northern Iowa, so we have a national lab account with Quest and LabCorp. So no matter where you are, we just we do your intake, we get you started with somebody, we email you a lab order, you take that to whichever lab you prefer to go to. We also have a cash lab option if you have a high deductible, and we get the labs going. It usually takes 2 to 3 weeks to get those back. And then if we deem that you need a stool test, that takes another 2 to 3 weeks to come back. Okay. That's why I'm here. My better half is getting the semaglutide and is getting 0 follow-up. I think what happened is a lot of clinics found that they can make some cash by selling these, but they don't know how to manage them comprehensively. They don't have the equipment to do the monitoring. They don't know how to follow up. And so that's why I'm always like, be cautious with who you do business with, because we don't offer anything in our clinic that we do not manage from top to bottom. That's just the surgeon mentality coming out for me. You don't operate on anything you can't manage all the way. We operate at a very high level of medicine and preventive medicine and what we do. So you can slide over and we can get you going on our plan and make sure we have that. Do you do all of these until you hit your goal weight? Generally, once you start seeing results, we push that, the thyroid dose. Yes, until you hit your goal weight is generally the rule. And then we start backing it down. So Brenda has come up with a pretty good tapering protocol. That's when that high phenolic may come in at the end as we're backing off on the GLP-1s, so it doesn't just rebound your appetite and have problems that way. Do I have to take all the supplements the rest of my life? Well, so my thought on supplements. I do think they're super important. Our diet now does not have the nutrients it had 50 to 100 years ago because of the soil and how things are farmed and pesticides and things like that. So I am a believer, if you want to be healthy, you've got to take supplements the rest of your life. That's just an overall statement. With these, it's how much do you want to invest? How much do you want to invest in your health? What things do you need, and customizing it to you. Can you ship the fat burner shots? Yes, we can. Anyone can order from our supplement store, so we always appreciate that. We've vetted out all of these. We've found the best products at the best price for you. This is what our own family takes. So, yeah. If someone needs medication to bring things into alignment, do you find their body can heal and come off of these things, or are they on meds indefinitely? So it depends what meds you're asking about. So, I mean, every day I'm getting people off of insulin is number one thing I've got to get people off of. This is one of the biggest mistakes in medicine is patients who are type 2 diabetics, they're getting slammed with insulin if their A1C is high. Their problem is too much insulin. So trying to squeeze the levers and move things so I can get them off of the insulin and back down off the damage is one of the most important things. And once we get some momentum, we get things, some traction, I often see them coming off of a lot of their blood pressure medicine, a lot of their diabetes medicine, sometimes other things as well. So it's usually a net positive getting off of those things. I did not say you have to stand for 12 hours a day. There's actually a specific criteria. If you have an Apple Watch, you know what I'm talking about. You need to stand 2 minutes every hour, 12 hours a day. So the Apple Watches track when you stand. And if you don't stand by like the 50 after the hour, it'll say, like mine will probably do here in a minute, stand up, just a reminder to stand. So that actually being sedentary and being seated is worse than smoking, is what they have found. Yes, everybody who registered for the webinar is going to get a recording. We will also be posting this on our YouTube. So if you are watching this in hindsight and you're watching a replay and you're interested in this special, email us, and it does expire on Wednesday at the end of business. That is Wednesday, August 14th is when the special expires. If you miss that, we offer this all the time at the regular price, which is still a really good value. If you know a lot about integrative and functional medicine, we've priced this to be competitive so the working people like us can access it. Okay, I see hands up. Do you take the fat burner shots along with the semaglutide shots? Yes, I do recommend that. What is the long-term success rate? I'm glad someone asked that. So far, we actually track our patients for quite a long time, and we are 1 to 2 years out with some, we're a relatively new clinic, keep that in mind. So we used to open in 21. We really started treating for this in 22. So we're only about 2 years out, but we do have 2 years of data on some of our first patients, and they have been able to, all of them that I know have been able to maintain their weight loss. We have a small percentage that have fallen out. I am a huge believer in you have to be ready. When you're ready, everything clicks into place and you're going to rock and roll. If you're not in a place in your life where you're ready to commit to it, it's just you're not going to get out of the gates. So we have had a few people that weren't quite ready to do this or had other issues and fell out. But I would say that's a relatively small percentage, less than 5%. The price is a one-time payment, yes. So that would be collected at sign up. And then, like I said, we get people going right away. When you're ready to make that decision and rock and roll, you're ready to start. So the minute we have a commitment from you, we're committed to getting you going. I can't see hands up, so I don't know if anybody wants to ask a question. I'm trying to, it looks like I've gotten through all of them in the chat and we're approaching an hour. So any last, I did see a hand, it came on my screen that someone had a hand up, but if you can drop your question in the chat, I will be happy to get to it. We appreciate, oh,
I was going to say we had a few questions come in, but thank you, Brenda and Melissa, for answering those regarding cost and if insurance helps cover labs and anything else. A couple other questions did come through. If the price is one payment or broken into equal payments for the functional consultation series.
Yes. So it is one payment and that's due when you sign up. Again, that gets my whole team in action and gets you going. So we don't do payment plans. Can any of the lab work or other care be submitted to insurance for reimbursement? So if you use a lab that bills insurance, so that would be Quest or LabCorp, yes, they can bill your insurance. That is subject to the deductibles. So if you have a $5,000 deductible, you might want to know that so you don't get an unexpected lab bill. Can I stop by the local office to pick up the supplement stack? You absolutely can do that. I believe the office is not open tomorrow. but it will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Since I live in Arizona, how would I get the body mass testing done? That is a great question. A lot of gyms have the InBody, so you might check with your local gym. I know in different pockets of Arizona is pretty health conscious, so I wouldn't think it would be that challenging to find somebody who's got one. We have a lot of patients from out of state, and I won't get into it on here, that actually travel to our location for their initial consult. They want to do that, or they want to do some other things that we offer. Like our infusions and things to get going. I didn't even talk about those. So sometimes people from out of state will travel in for just the initial approximate lab cost. So if you go through Quest or LabCorp and it hits a full deductible, you're looking at $2,000 to $3,000. We have a cash lab that a nice, not exactly the same, but a similar panel for $250 cash. Would we be able to do it in Sheraton? Yes, of course. Sheraton is a fully functioning clinic. You can get everything you need right in Sheraton. So we have 3 offices. We're in St. Louis, in Ellisville, Sheraton, Iowa, my hometown. Nick, you might see Nick there if you stop into that office. And Detroit, Michigan. We're actually in Troy, Michigan. So we have 3 offices that are fully ready to go. Nick, anything else you want to add? I know, we've talked about your story before with COVID, and you've
Yeah.
just done amazing. Any words of advice or support to give people that are kind of looking at getting going?
Man, I don't know. I guess whatever you want to put into it is what you get out of it. So I've kind of ventured off, and based on stuff that you've recommended or told me I need to do, I went on and, I've cut out all the seed oils. I looked at like Paul Salandino and took in kind of what he does and how he does the animal-based diets and the foods that I decided I wanted to eat. And, you can add that stuff to it and kind of create your program. But the trizepatide, I felt like that gave me the base. That gave me the focus to be able to start going. And then I slowly started, okay, I think I want to try fasting now. And I added the fasting into it. So it's not like you have to start off day one full bore and give up all this food and be super strict. You can kind of ease into it and then find what you want your life to be and what food you want. And I feel like it's overall losing I'm down 71 right now. And I feel like it's allowed me to enjoy life. It's allowed me now to go hang out with the kids and behind the boat and do the things that I love, instead of feeling like I'm so overweight I can't enjoy life anymore. So I felt like doing this stuff is a small price to pay for what you get out of it.
And on that note, there's a couple of questions and I'll get to them. I just want to be respectful of people that had to dial off at an hour. If you don't feel well, you can't be your best self. Whether it's being active with kids, chasing grandkids, doing your art, doing your passions. Like if you're tied up and, not feeling your best, you just won't do your best. Also, not to get political, but we don't know what it's been pretty crazy. And we don't know what's going to happen. Just like Nick during COVID got really sick, a number of people got really sick. I think anything you can do to get yourself healthier and in a better spot, whatever comes down the pike, you'll do better and you're going to be ahead. So, we keep hearing about monkeypox and bird flu and COVID coming around again. So you want to be as healthy as possible because we don't know what the supply chains are going to look like. We know the hospitals have failed in a major way during COVID, putting profits over patients. So you want to be in control of your own health. And to me, that's very empowering just to know what I'm doing for myself every single day. What is the difference between the fat burner shots and the GLP-1s? So the GLP-1s have a totally different mechanism of action. These are going to delay gastric emptying. They cut that appetite loop in the brain. So they cut that piece of it, and they're going to help your insulin work better. So that's GLPs. On the other hand, the fat burner shots, those are methionine, inositol, choline, carnitine. These are the ingredients, these are the amino acids that your liver needs to process fats. So one is dealing more on the metabolic and the hormone signaling in the body as far as your stomach not emptying as fast, your ghrelin and leptin and things like that. The other is liver processing of fats. So totally different, and you can do both together if you so choose. And we have a lot of people who do that. Do you stay on these diets forever? That is a great question. And my answer is yes and no. If you look at historically humankind, our entire cycle of diet has been a keto with fasting. That is the caveman diet. If you go back and look at through the years, that is just how the human condition came to be. It is only in most recent history that we've had all this processed garbage, all this sugar. Again, our body can handle 4 teaspoons of sugar a day. The average American eats 300 pounds of carbs a year, flour and sugar. That's almost a pound of sugar and flour a day. It's insane what we're putting into our bodies. So, yes, you probably, if you get to your goal weight, you want to have some version. Fasting is a great way so that you can feast and fast, right? You can go to a birthday party and enjoy cake and whatever and a nice meal, and you fast and clean it up for a day or two. So, again, that's individualized and that's up to you. But most people are going to find that it's easier to follow some kind of eating plan or clean it up if they're a little bit more on track. We
Also, hey,
go ahead.
Molly,
Yeah.
another thing that like I think for me anyway, once you're doing this and you are eating good,
Mhm.
as soon as you eat something that's not healthy, your body immediately you feel it, and it's like I don't even want to eat that stuff.
Yes.
You're doing so good off of the good food and clean up that the desire is not there to eat any garbage, and if you do, it'll kind of wreck your stomach. I mean, your stomach's kind of like, what are you doing? So I don't think those urges are there later on once you're going along. So
Yeah.
it's more of a lifestyle change, and it's just saying this is how I want to live my life. Then God, am I on a diet? No, I'm just this is the way I live now. I
Yeah.
just eat good. I eat good food.
Yeah. And so, and I always tell people that you may not crave broccoli and salmon out of the gates, but you will eventually. If you can push through and force yourself to do it for a while, you're going to shift. And I had one of our family text me and say, like, hey, I'm craving French silk pie. I'm like, eat it. Eat a couple bites of it because it's so rich, you're not going to want very much of it. And then you've satiated that craving and you're done. So that's an important part of it. The fat burner shots are $30 a piece. Actually they're usually 50, but I discounted them for tonight, so they're $30. To figure out what type of diet you need to be on, is that done through the glucose monitoring? So that's a complicated question, and I'll try to give a simple answer. So it's dependent on what your insulin level is. So I have a patient with an insulin level over 200. So with her, I've said, you've got to be like keto. You've got to break that insulin level down, because until we get that insulin to the normal range, I even screened her for an insulinoma because that's so extremely high. We have patients in the 30 to 50 range. That's pretty high. So the higher your insulin is, the more aggressive you have to be with your diet. If your insulin's like 15, then then you might be able to just do the glucose revolution, where it's a less extreme version of the diet. So, everybody's different. I have people who prefer to do carnivore. And if they do, fine, do it for a short term and hit your goal, and then go back to something a little more reasonable. So it's personal preference and your lab work combined.
Another
All right.
thing, Molly, is
Yeah.
like once you're eating better and you go, and I found that once you eat fruit, the fruit tastes extremely like sweet to you. Where right now you might eat some strawberries or something, you're like, oh, those are kind of bland because you're eating so much sugar and so much other like artificial processed stuff. When
Yeah.
you go eat a natural fruit, it feels like to me, it's like, wow, that is like super sweet now. Like it tastes totally different to me than what it did before.
Yes. And the one thing I would say, if you've been on the roller coaster where you've tried and failed multiple times, this is one of the things at life. It's always worth trying again, because your health is so important. And for me, I've tried and tried and tried over and over. And one of these days it will stick. And that's why I'm so proud of our program, because it's taking those people that have had failure after failure, and it's turning it into a success, and they don't even believe it. I have twin sisters, I have husband and wife, I have brother, sister, I have every combination of people that you can imagine, that have been frustrated and just, they're living their best life now, not to overuse that term. So, um, yeah, proud of what we've accomplished, and I just want to help people hit their goals and get out of the system. The system is killing people. So
And we've been there.
we've been there.
We've been the ones sitting there like, what else can I do? What can I try? I've done this, I've done that. So uh there is something there that will help you out.
Yep. So if you're ready to make the call tonight, the links are in the chat. So make sure you do that. First come, first serve. We're going to book up fast is going to be my guess on this. We will get everybody going, but the sooner you make the commitment to go, we're gonna take care of you and get you through. If you want to start on the GLP-1 shots, we'll make sure that you get them started by the end of the week, which is huge, based on how many people are on here tonight. So make sure you consider that. As Megan put, the recording will be sent out tomorrow night. In the meantime, we'll get this uploaded to YouTube. So if you know people who couldn't be here, who didn't register, they can watch it on our YouTube channel. And anytime you go to it, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They're kind of three different avenues of information that we share. If you like a little snark, follow on Twitter. That's kind of where we do battle. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate your time. Is super valuable, and you've made already step one, commitment to yourself. I've given you the tools that you can go out tonight or tomorrow and start on your own. But if you want us, we're here. We're behind you 100%, and we're going to make you believe what we believe that you can do it. So thank you all. Have a blessed evening.